Good afternoon. Hope you're having a great week. It is Tuesday, May 13th, 1:25 p.m. Central Daylight Time, local time here in Perham, Minnesota. I'm at a potato chip factory. I don't even know what kind of potato chips they make here. But they got me into a dock door early. I got here yesterday at 9 p.m. and I checked in at that time. They were like, we can't get you in overnight. I'm going to take you back out off of the list, and you can check back in tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. on the next shift. So that's what I did. And then the 7 a.m. shift person called me and said, your appointment's not until 5 p.m. and we're really busy. We're not going to be able to get you in early. And I was like, that's fine. 5 p.m.'s fine. I was just checking in early in case you guys have a cancellation or something. And he's like, yeah, we'll see if we can get you in. And I said, all right, cool. So are you going to leave me on the list, or am I going to have to check back in later? And he said, I'll leave you on the list, and if we can get you in, I'll give you a call. And I was like, all right, cool, thanks. And then they gave me a call at 11:40 a.m. And I got over into a dock, and that's where I've been sitting ever since 11:40. Been here for about an hour and a half. What do you say? It's 1:30 now, so it's getting close to like an hour and 50 minutes. It's getting close to like almost 2 hours, and I've been sitting in the dock door, and I don't think they've started loading me yet, unless they have some really light pallet jacks that they're using to load it. I haven't felt anyone going in or out of the trailer. But it's kind of hard to tell. If they're using really light pallet jacks, it would be hard for me to feel them going in and out of the trailer because it's so windy here. Let me see if you can... Let me try zooming in. You see how... You can see the wind on the grass? The trees, and let's zoom. Oh wow, Dawn Flores just posted a load from Terrell, Texas to Rock Springs, Wyoming at $4.23 a mile. Dawn Flores, the DDB agency, she is one of my favorite agents. I haul lots of loads for her. She's super nice. She's really good at her job. Oh man, there's really big wind gusts. There's tons. I don't know how good the video quality is, whether or not you can see the wind ripping through here. But it's just rocking the truck back and forth. So it'd be really hard for me to even feel somebody walking around in the trailer if they're using like a pallet jack, something really light. But I don't think they've been loading me. And this is a really tight schedule. I was hoping they would get me in an early slot and get me loaded early because of how tight the schedule is. This place supposedly takes like 6 hours to load. So my original appointment was I had a window from 5 p.m. to midnight. And if that's the window that they would have loaded me in, if I would have gotten loaded at midnight, then let's go through the trip plan real quick. It's roughly 1,200 miles. It's 2 full drive shifts. So midnight to noon on Wednesday, and then a 10-hour break, so that's noon to 10, and then another 12-hour drive shift, that would be 10 to 10. Plus we have a time zone change where I'm going from Central to Mountain, so I'm gaining an hour. So I would be arriving at 9 a.m. Thursday morning. My appointment is at 9 a.m. Thursday morning. That is how tight the schedule is that if I do 2 600-mile drive shifts, which 600 miles in a drive shift with a truck that you don't go over 65 in, that's a really solid drive shift is 600 miles. If you're pushing it to the, like, if you don't have any delays and you're really, really pushing it, then you might be able to get upwards of 650 miles in a drive shift. But 600 is a really solid drive shift. So that's how tight this schedule is. So what I was planning on doing, and what I'm still going to do, is, if you follow the channel, you know that I don't normally set my crews higher than 65. But if I have scheduling issues or anything like that, then I will go faster than 65 to make up time. Because of how tight this appointment is, this schedule is, I was planning on driving 70, setting my crews at 70 the whole trip to make up time. And I was hoping that they would get me in early to make up some more time. So I did get in early, but I don't know if they're actually loading me earlier or if they're just going to let me sit in the bay until 5 p.m. Because, I mean, like, we're getting closer and closer to 5 p.m. and I don't think they've started loading me yet. But who knows? One of the other reasons I don't think they've started loading me yet is I've seen them removing glad hand locks, airline locks from the trailer airline. And they haven't put a lock on my trailer airline yet. So that's another reason I don't think they've started loading me yet. And by the way, this is attempt number 2 at making this video. For anybody who follows the channel, you know that I do not edit videos. If they get interrupted, then I just try to make them again. Well, I was sitting here recording the video like I am right now, and this truck right here that's maneuvering around, that was parked in this no parking area. All these trucks that are parked here, they're not supposed to be parked there. There's 4 signs just on the right side of them that say no parking. You can see that one right there. I don't know how big. Let's try zooming in. See that no parking sign right there? There's 4 signs that say no parking right there. And we had, at one point, we had 5 or 6 trucks parked right here. But anyway, the guy driving that blue truck right there was parked right there, and I was recording just like I am right now. And he saw me recording, and he walked over and he confronted me about it. He was like, "Are you recording a video?" I was like, "Yeah." And he just kind of like sat there looking at me. I was like, "Do you think I'm recording you? Is that why you're over here?" And he was like, "Yeah." I was like, "I was recording before you showed up." And he was like, "Oh, what do you record?" And then all of a sudden he became really nice and he wanted to subscribe to my channel. But that's the kind of crap that I run into. It's one of the reasons I don't like recording whenever there's people around me, is because that's the first time I've ever had somebody like come up and confront me about recording them. And he didn't come over like really hostile. He was just like questioning it. I don't know how to describe it. He didn't come over like he wanted to fight. That's not the way he was acting. And then he got really nice and like was wanting to subscribe to my channel and stuff. But almost every time I'm recording in public, I have the problem of people wanting to come over and be part of the video. They want to just like take over and start talking. And what it reminds me of is back when I had my motorcycle. I had a super sport motorcycle, and I don't know what it is about being on a motorcycle that all of a sudden people just think you're the most social person in the world. But I had issues like every time I was at a stoplight, people would roll their windows down and want to talk to me. Cars driving past me would like try talking to me. Teenage girls would like pull up next to me at stoplights and flirt with me at stoplights. I'm a 40-year-old bald man. Now, this was back when I was like 100 pounds lighter. I gained like 100 pounds since I got into trucking. So, I wasn't like, a 300-pound fat bald guy. I was in decent shape. So with the helmet on, I had a full face helmet, so they couldn't see my face. People were just assuming that I was some, young kid. And I had so many people pull up next to me at stoplights and like wanting to chit chat with me and stuff. And it wasn't just when I was on the motorcycle. If people would see me walking around in my motorcycle gear, like if I were to go into a convenience store, I didn't leave my helmet on my bike because somebody could easily just grab my helmet and run off with it. So I would take my helmet into the convenience store with me, and just being in my motorcycle jacket and my helmet, people would just walk up to me and start talking to me. That doesn't happen. I don't have that problem when I'm, when I wasn't wearing the motorcycle gear, when I wasn't carrying the motorcycle helmet, I didn't have that problem. But I have that exact same problem whenever I'm walking around with a phone recording. People treat me the same way that they did whenever I was wearing motorcycle gear. They just want to come up and talk to me. So that's one of the reasons I don't generally record around people, is because they just want to become part of the video. And I don't edit. So if I were the type of person that edits, then I would just edit that crap out of the video. But since I don't edit, then we give it another try. But yeah, this is a really tight schedule. And the place that I'm delivering to, the Target distribution center, the agent told me that there is going to be detention, and I'm going to get paid $40 an hour for detention, and this is going to be a long detention, he told me. And I was like, that's fine, I don't care. I'm not going to have to deal with lumpers, am I? And he said, no. And I said, then I'm good to go. Detention is fine. He said, don't book another load after this one, unless it's a couple of days after this one, because it's going to be a really long detention. And the Google reviews on the Target distribution center, it's the Target distribution center in Pueblo, Colorado. The Google reviews, oh my goodness, it has so many negative reviews about unload times. People in there talking about 8, 10, 11 hour. I think there was one person that said it took 20 hours for them to unload them. I'm getting kind of excited about that, honestly. Paying me $40 an hour to sit in here and play video games and watch TV, hell yeah. You go ahead and take 40 hours to unload me, I don't mind. I'll sit there for 40 hours getting paid $40 an hour. Okay, I just felt somebody come into the trailer. They just now started loading me. I've been in the bay. I got in here at 11:40. It's now 1:40. I've been sitting in the bay for almost exactly 2 hours. And they just started loading me. And they did not put a glad hand lock on me. They put glad hand locks on the other people. Let me get out and double check that somebody didn't sneak up here. I pulled my airline off. But no, they didn't lock me in. The other people just pulled into the bays. They've like the guy next to me is still got a green light. They haven't even locked him in yet. So, but they don't have glad hand locks either. But the people that were parked next to me that left after I got in here, they had glad hand locks. They pulled glad hand locks off of them before they left the bay. So yeah, I'm surprised that they're loading me up right now and they didn't glad hand lock me. But yeah, man, take 40 hours. I'm expecting about 10 hours to unload me. Why? Okay, so for people who are not truck drivers or you've never delivered to a grocery warehouse, grocery warehouses are some of the worst places to deliver. Why? Sorry about the shakiness. They're going in and out of the trailer, and it's just rocking the truck. They're going in and out pretty quick. Maybe they spent the last 2 hours like docking my load and verifying the load, and now they're just slamming it into the trailer. But anyway, grocery warehouses, why are they so bad? Well, typically, and not every grocery warehouse is the same, but here are some of the things that are common at grocery warehouses. Number one, extremely strict appointment times. They will get mad if you show up more than like 15 or 30 minutes early for your appointment. And if you show up a minute late, they will penalize you like $100. And if you show up like 30 minutes late, they'll penalize you like $200 or $300. And if you show up an hour or more late, they'll penalize you like $500, and you have to schedule a new appointment. You have to come back some other time. So, insanely strict scheduling appointment times. And on top of that, they typically have fines that they'll penalize you if you don't show up within like their little 15-minute window, which is really hard to do in one of these trucks, especially considering some of these grocery warehouses are in areas where there's no truck parking for quite a ways. So you're having to drive from 30, 45 minutes, an hour away and show up in a 15 or 30-minute window. That's not easy to do as a truck driver. What else is wrong with these warehouses that makes them suck? Well, you have to check in with a bunch of different places. You typically have to check in with the security at the front gate. Then, once you make it past them, you have to go check in with the shipping and receiving office. And then, once you get through with them, you have to go check in with the lumper service. So you have like tons of different groups of people that are managing you that you have to interact with. And they're all separate entities. They're usually completely different companies. There's the company that does the security, there's the company that does the shipping and receiving, and then there's a company that does a lumper. And you're having to interact with 3 different companies, check in with 3 different companies, follow the rules of 3 different companies. And then on top of that, if you didn't notice what I said in the last one, who you had to check in with, you have to deal with the lumper service. And I hate lumpers so much. I really can't stand lumpers, but that's the other negative thing, is dealing with lumpers. And then the other thing that you have to deal with that really sucks is extremely long unload times. Why do grocery warehouses take so long to unload? Because they do piece counts. Generally what they do is they will take the items off of the pallet and put them onto a new pallet, and they will count the items as they move them from one pallet to another. So they count every single item. They don't count by pallet, they count by item. Piece count. So if you have like 10,000 bags of chips in your trailer, they're counting every single bag of chips. And they typically will, in order to count them, they will take them from one pallet and move them onto a new pallet, one at a time, to count them. It takes forever. And then, because they're doing such precise counting, and they may or may not be accurate with their counting, then you have to deal with overages and underages. Grocery warehouses are about the only places where I ever deal with overages or underages, because they do their anal retentive piece counting, and they're not always accurate on that. And then you have shady companies that ship stuff to these grocery warehouses. They will ship them more product than they ordered in the hope that they'll just go ahead and buy it. I had that with Clorox, Procter & Gamble, Kingsford, Clorox. So Kingsford is owned by Procter & Gamble, or no, Kingsford is owned by Clorox, who is owned by Procter & Gamble. I think that's how it is. I know that Procter & Gamble owns both Clorox and Kingsford. But I delivered a load of Kingsford charcoal to a grocery warehouse in the LA area, and it had twice as many pallets of charcoal as they ordered. It had like 54 pallets of charcoal, and they only ordered 27. So half the trailer. Kingsford, I don't know what they were thinking, but I think that they were hoping that they would just go ahead and purchase the other half of the trailer. And they didn't. They rejected it. So I had to deliver that other half of the trailer back to Kingsford. And I refused to drive it all the way back to Oregon. So they had a warehouse in Tracy, California that they let me take it to. But anyway, yeah, there's lots of reasons grocery warehouses really suck. And I've also had issues at grocery warehouses where they've lost my paperwork. It was back when I was in training at USA Truck. We were delivering to a grocery warehouse in the Denver area, and they lost our paperwork. And we were sitting around for like 2 hours trying to figure out what to do. And they were basically going to they were telling us to leave the property. We were like, no, you have our paperwork. We gave it to you. And we sat there and fought with them for 2 hours. And finally, they found the person that had the paperwork. The person had like gone to lunch or something with the paperwork. Like, it was, oh my goodness, it was a nightmare. Like, I hate grocery warehouses. There's so many different companies, usually, that work at grocery warehouses. They have so many different contractors working there. It's just a cluster to interact with all of that. So yeah, I'm not looking forward to delivering at Target. Also, they usually have some really stupid rules as far as like sliding, you know, all the rules that we have to deal with as truck drivers whenever we get to these shippers or receivers. Some of them have ridiculous rules, like, you know, slide your tandems to the rear, or, you know, you have to disconnect your airline, or you have to disconnect from the trailer, or you have to leave the property. You know, you have to drop the trailer and then leave the property, and we'll call you when your trailer's done. Grocery warehouses are typically like all of the above. They do all of the ridiculous things that we have to do on these pickups and deliveries. Like this Target distribution center I'm delivering to, the Google reviews say that you have to leave the property and they'll call you when the trailer's done. So I have to drop the trailer, leave the property, and then they'll call me when it's done, which really sucks because a lot of these grocery warehouses are in downtown areas where there's no truck parking nearby. So you may have to drive like 5, 10, 15, 20 miles to find a place to park. But at this particular distribution center, this grocery warehouse, there's a property right next door to it, a business that has a huge parking lot that just went out of business. Well, they didn't go out of business. They have several locations, and they shut down that location February 1st. So they stopped operation January 1st, and they shut down the facility February 1st. And there was a Google review from a month ago where somebody said that they just parked over there while they waited on their load. So that's what I plan on doing, is parking on that property while I wait on the load. Hopefully they haven't fenced it off yet. They're most likely going to fence it off at some point so that you can't get onto the property. But yeah, I'm going to set my cruise at 70, 5 miles an hour faster than I normally go, and hopefully get loaded early. And that should put me to where I'm going to be getting there really early. I'm guessing I don't know when I'm going to leave here, so this is, I'm having to do a guess. But I'm guessing I might get there as early as like 2 a.m. Thursday morning, and I have a 9 a.m. appointment. So I might be able to take like a, 4, 5, 6, maybe even a 7-hour break before my delivery appointment, and then I drop the trailer off, drive right back over to that property, and go back on sleeper again and do the second half of a sleeper split. And then by the time they finish unloading the trailer, hopefully I'll have a full 10-hour break done, and then I can just, once they finish unloading me, I could just hook back up to the trailer, take off, and head straight to the house. And another thing, it is a lot further from Pueblo, Colorado to Oklahoma City than I thought it was. I thought it was only about 400 or 500 miles from Pueblo to Oklahoma City. From the Target distribution center to the place where I parked the truck, which is the east side of Oklahoma City. So it's like you're driving all the way across Oklahoma City, which is like 30 miles. It is 609 miles from the Target distribution center in Pueblo, Colorado, to the place where I parked the truck in southeast Oklahoma City. So that's a lot more miles. When I saw how many miles it was, I was like, man, let's see if we can get another load to the house instead of deadheading 600 miles. So I started looking for a load out of the, somewhere around Pueblo, Denver, Amarillo, somewhere in that area, headed towards Oklahoma City. And there was nothing. And I was like, I'm not going to, this is a freight dead zone. I'm not going to find anything worth a damn. If I do find a load, it's going to be really cheap. So, yeah, I'm just going to deadhead it. Like last time I was in Amarillo, like my very first load that I left the house on delivered in Amarillo. And I sat in Amarillo for like a week looking for a load, and I couldn't find anything coming out of the Amarillo area. I had to deadhead to Dallas to pick up a load, and that was like 350, 400 miles from Amarillo to Dallas. Well, it's to Terrell, Texas, which is the east side of Dallas. I want to say it was like a 400-mile deadhead to pick that load up. So, yeah, I'm just going to have to deadhead to the house. Hopefully I'm only going to be home for 1 to 2 weeks. I just need to do routine stuff, laundry, restock the truck with food. And then one other thing, I want to rewire the APU generator. I have paid several $1,000s having mechanics work on the APU generator. I've had issues with the APU generator the entire time I've owned this APU. And it wasn't until the last time I was in the shop that I found out how in the world this APU generator is wired. Now, I'm not an electrical engineer, so I could be completely wrong in my assumptions, but the way this APU is wired sounds like so idiotic to me. It's just like baffling how stupid they wired this APU. So let me explain it to you. Maybe you know more about electrical than I do. But I would suspect this is the reason that I have so many issues with the APU generator. The electrical wire from the APU generator connects to a bolt to the bracket, basically the frame that holds the APU, the frame that mounts the APU to the truck frame. The electrical wire from the generator is bolted to that frame. And then about 12 inches away from that frame, there's another bolt where another wire is connected, and then that wire goes up into the HVAC unit. So they are, and this is not the ground wire. I think the ground wire is also connected to that same frame. Actually, I'm like 99% sure that I take it back. I'm 100% sure that ground wire is connected to the same frame. So they have a live wire, the hot wire, and the ground wire connected to the frame. And the electricity is basically running through the frame or the support structure that holds the APU in place. The brackets that hold the APU. That just sounds so dumb to run the electrical through a bracket like that. Why is it not directly wired? How did I find out about this? None of these APU mechanics have ever told me that that's how it was wired. I had no idea that's how it was wired. The last mechanic that was working on it replaced the control unit because the previous mechanic said that the reason the generator wasn't working was because of the control unit. So we replaced the control unit and it still didn't work. So then the mechanic that replaced the control unit started troubleshooting the generator, and he said, I'm getting really weird readings with my voltmeter. He said that whenever I check the voltage using the black and the white wire, the hot and the neutral or whatever it is, he's not getting the proper voltage. But he said if he does the white wire with the ground, he is getting 120 volts. And he said, you have electricity flowing through your ground wire. And he said, that doesn't make any sense to me. And he got in there and started looking, and what had happened is one of the wires that was connected to that bracket came loose. And he reconnected it. I think the ground wire is hooked up to another bracket. I forget exactly what it is. But somehow the wire that was connected to that bracket came loose from the bolt, and it was touching something to where it was now flowing through whatever the ground wire was connected to. It's just absolutely crazy how they have this thing connected. But he wired it back up the way it was. He fixed the wire that was, not connected anymore, not connected properly, just rubbing up against stuff. And all of a sudden, he was getting the correct 120 volt readings. And we thought it was fixed. But then I had issues with the generator a week later. What are the problems I have with the generator? Well, I go through capacitors like crazy. I have to replace the capacitor every week or two. And I've talked with other people that own these APUs, and I'm like, are you replacing capacitors all the time? They're like, I've never replaced the capacitor on my APU. I have to replace alternator belts and capacitors all the time on my APU. And I've asked other people that own carrier APUs, and they've told me that they never have to replace alternator belts or capacitors on their APUs. Or very rarely do they replace alternator belts. And almost everyone I've talked to has said that they've never replaced a capacitor. So I think the reason the capacitors keep going out and the reason I keep having voltage issues is because of the way it's wired. So what I'm planning on doing whenever I get home is I am going to make it to where it doesn't go through the bracket. I'm going to wire the two wires directly together using actual wire instead of a bracket. So that's one of the projects that I plan on doing while I'm at home. And I don't think it's going to be very difficult. It's just going to be time consuming. There's nothing hard about it. It's just a lot of work. Probably going to be an all-day project for me. It would take a mechanic probably about an hour to do, but for me, it's probably going to take me all day long. So I'm just going to have to get out there and do it, get it done. That's the only thing that I have planned to do aside from just normal stuff. like laundry and restocking food. All of these spots would normally be straight backs if these people weren't parked in these no parking areas right here. We have, like I said earlier, I think I mentioned, I think at one point there were 5 or 6 trucks parked here in front of me. And I think we're down to 3 trucks. I think there's only 3 of them parked there now. But there are 4 no parking signs on the right side of those trucks. Just these special little snowflakes that they just want to park right next to the shipping and receiving office because they don't want to walk. Right over there is where everybody normally parks, alongside the road right there. There's tons of parking. You see where that truck that just pulled out is parking? There's normally trucks double parked up and down through there alongside the road. And they're parked on that side of the road as well where that truck is parked at. But instead of parking right over there, all these people are choosing to park in this no parking area. There's also a whole bunch of parking. They have like 3 different trailer lots here. And where I parked last night was in one of their trailer lots over here behind this building. There is tons of places to park around here. And these people are parking in the only spot that I've seen that has no parking signs. It's just because they're special little snowflakes. The rules don't apply to them. The rules are for everybody else, not them. But this is one of the problems we have in trucking. And this is not just trucking. It's how people... It's like lemmings. People are like lemmings. It's follow the leader. It's, monkey see, monkey do. There's a whole lot of terms to describe human behavior or animal behavior. But whenever one person does something, other people will do it. If nobody else is parked up here, then other people are going to be hesitant to park there. Because why isn't anybody else parked there? But if somebody parks there, then all of a sudden other trucks will start pulling in there. So, like, I've been here since 9 p.m. yesterday. I haven't seen anyone park in these spots right here. And then all of a sudden, whenever they called me into a door, another Landstar driver parked over there. And I had to maneuver around them to back into this door. And then all of a sudden, trucks just started piling in once they saw that Landstar driver parked there. And that Landstar driver left and pulled into a dock space over there. They're still docked in over there getting loaded. But the trucks just kept piling up right there. And people have been parked there ever since. So they're probably just going to continue parking there until it clears out. Or until somebody runs them off, which it doesn't appear that the employees around here want to mess with it. I haven't seen any of the employees. There was a yard dog that was trying to get over here to park a trailer and couldn't even get over here because of how many trucks were parked over here at one point. And he just sat there in his truck waiting for people to clear out. He sat there for like 15 minutes and never came up here and asked people to move. So I don't think that they're going to tell people to move. So anyway, let's talk about the fuel route. So before I start talking about fuel prices, let me explain fuel prices for people who don't watch my videos. Whenever I look at fuel prices, I look at the base cost of fuel. What is the base cost? Well, it's the cost minus my discount and minus fuel tax. So, like Oklahoma and Texas, I think their fuel tax is 20 cents a gallon. California is like $1 a gallon fuel tax. My fuel discounts are usually around $1 a gallon. So, I don't care what the price is before discount, what the pump price is, and I don't care what the price is including fuel tax. Why don't I care about those things? Because I pay the same fuel tax regardless of what I pay at the pump. every owner-operator, in my opinion, should choose where to fuel based off of base fuel costs without fuel tax. Because we pay fuel tax based off of the mileage we drive in every state. The amount that we pay in fuel tax at the pump is meaningless. If you pay no fuel tax at all, ever, at the pump, then you're going to have a big bill every quarter of fuel taxes that you owe. And if you're paying a lot of fuel tax at the pump, then you're probably going to get refunds every quarter. So paying fuel tax at the pump, all it is prepaying fuel tax. You will get even on your fuel taxes every quarter. We get caught up on our fuel taxes every quarter, and it's based off the mileage we do in every state. So a lot of people will fuel up in states that have low or no fuel tax, thinking that they're getting really cheap fuel, and that's not always the case. Like Oregon doesn't charge fuel tax at the pump, and people think that they're getting really cheap fuel in Oregon. There are times when Washington has cheaper fuel than Oregon. It's not often. Oregon usually does have some of the cheapest fuel on the West Coast, but it's not always the case. There have been times where, Washington has been cheaper than Oregon. And California fuel prices, some of those places are very competitive with Kingman, Arizona, whenever you're looking at base fuel cost. I think the difference between San Bernardino and Kingman fuel cost was only 10 cents a gallon. I ended up fueling up just outside of Flagstaff because it was like 15 cents a gallon cheaper than Kingman. But most people will top off fuel at Kingman, Arizona whenever they go in or out of California because they think that California fuel is so expensive. But it's not actually as expensive as you think whenever you look at the cost of fuel without fuel tax. So now that I've explained the prices that I'm going to be talking about, I'm talking about base cost of fuel, no tax, after discount. So I put in 50 gallons of fuel in Glendive, Montana off I-94, and it was $2.58 a gallon. And I'm at half a tank now after driving from Glendive all the way over here to Perham, Minnesota. My next fuel stop is in Sioux City, Nebraska. I can't remember if it's Sioux Falls or Sioux City, or it's Sioux something, Nebraska. No, South Dakota. Not Nebraska, it's South Dakota. Sioux something, South Dakota. My fuel cost is $2.39 a gallon. Now, I could actually get fuel cheaper in Omaha, Nebraska, $2.36 a gallon, but I would have to drive to the southeast side of town instead of taking the 680 bypass around the west side of town. So I don't think 3 cents a gallon is worth all the extra miles I would have to drive, and I would have to drive all the way through town twice to get it. So I'm just going to get fuel at 3 cents, $2.39 a gallon instead of $2.36 a gallon in Sioux, whatever, South Dakota. And that'll get me all the way to the delivery. And then after I deliver in Pueblo, I plan on topping off fuel again in Amarillo, Texas. And I want to say Amarillo is right around the same price, around $2.38 a gallon. And then I'll be good to go all the way to Oklahoma City. I'll probably get to Oklahoma City with about 3/4 of a tank. And that will be plenty. So that's the plan. That's what's going on with me. Oh man, we got a forklift driving down the road. So they are actually using forklifts in there. They are taking forever to load. There for a minute, they were going in and out of the trailer a lot, and then there was a delay with nobody going in and out of the trailer, and then there was like, they went into the trailer once, and I haven't felt them go in or out of the trailer in, I don't know, like 15, 20 minutes or something. But anyway, should probably wrap up the video there. That's about what's going on with me. Oh, there they go in the trailer again. I am really surprised that they did not put a glad hand lock on me. And I don't think they're loading any of the other trucks around me, because I'm not seeing them shaking around. And the guy to my right still has the green light. I have the red light, he has the green light, so they haven't locked into his trailer yet. But yeah, I'm hoping that they get me out of here pretty early. If they get me out of here at 5 p.m., that would be so awesome. I would have an extra 6 or 7 hours on the load. That would make a world of difference. I really don't want to drive through. On the original load, if I would have gotten out of here at midnight at my normal scheduled time, I probably would have been driving through Denver during morning rush hour. But you know, get me out of here 5-6 hours early, it's going to make a world of difference. Now I'm going to be driving through Denver at probably midnight, 2 a.m. So that's pretty awesome. And yeah, the mileage. One other thing, let's talk about the mileage on this load. The mileage on the freight bill, if I remember correctly, was like 967 miles. That's like household goods mover miles or some crazy crap like that. Those are not realistic miles. Yeah, if you're taking dirt roads, and I'm exaggerating, but like it's almost air miles from Perham, Minnesota to Pueblo, Colorado is 967 miles. It's almost air miles. It's like a straight line taking backcountry, state roads and highways the whole way there. I am not doing that crap. I am not going to drive bi-directional roads for 1,000 miles. So I'm taking all interstate all the way. And instead of, 967 miles, it's going to be 1,120 miles. And the 967 was short miles as well. I think if the shortest route that Google gave me was like 1,000 something miles, a little over 1,000 miles. So I'm driving maybe an extra 100 miles to avoid driving bi-directional roads the whole route. And it's probably going to be faster to take all interstates instead of driving through these small towns with stoplights going 25 miles an hour constantly, doing these state roads and highways the whole way. So yeah, it's like 1,120 miles. Oh, wow. I just got the message that I'm loaded. All right, let me wrap up the video, and I'll start the upload, and then I'm going to get out of here. All right, have a good one. Bye.